Hello and welcome to video number 202. This one is on interpreting and comparing data. The keywords I've got for you are averages, interpret, misleading and outlier. So averages are the mean, median and mode, and they find the middle of something, middle of a set of data. Interpret means to understand it and maybe explain some things about it as well. Misleading, if you've got some misleading data, it's telling you a story that it shouldn't be telling you, basically. And an outlier is what might be the reason for data being misleading, because an outlier is a piece of data that doesn't fit with the trend of the rest of the data. Okay, so the method states you'll be asked to draw some conclusions from the information you get presented to you. You might need to work out when the information could be misleading and give reasons why. You will need to be able to put the data into some form of context and think about how it relates to real life. And you might get different sets of data to compare using an appropriate average and the range as well. So, number one, state two things that are wrong with the graph that's in that box. So when you look at the scale, you should see it's a bar chart, and that should start then at 0. You've got 10, 11, 12, 14. So it's an inconsistent scale is what I would say. You could say it doesn't start at 0 as well, but I'm going to call it an inconsistent scale on the frequency. Doesn't go up in the same values each time. So that goes up by 1, but then it jumps up by 2, and then 1 again, and 1 again, and 1 again, right? So inconsistent scale on the y-axis would be an acceptable comment to write there. And bar charts should have gaps between the bars, but unfortunately they've drawn this bar chart with a slightly different width gap. Okay, so I'm going to put the width of the gaps is also inconsistent. Okay, inconsistent meaning not consistent, not the same. There you go, there's our two things that we could state. And again, you could just write that 0, it doesn't start at 0 for the bar chart, and it doesn't make any sense for it to start at 10. Okay, now, number 2, Toby recorded the number of points 2 friends scored in 5 basketball matches. And here, they haven't got names, they're just called friend A and friend B. Poor old Toby. He loves his data, so he doesn't give his friends names. So, question A, which friend is more consistent? Give a reason. So consistency comes from the range of results. So friend A, if we calculate the range for friend A, we've got 40 take away 0. I'm just going to call it A equals 40 minus 0, which is equal to 40. So that's quite a big range. And then B, we've got the biggest take away the smallest. Well, clearly it's a lot closer in terms of results. We've got 25 and we've got 16. So 25 minus 16 is 9, therefore friend B is definitely more consistent. All right, and the reason is they have a smaller range of results. And that was what we need to write. So B, because the range is smaller. Okay, the smaller the range, the more consistent something is. All right. Now, Toby says friend A scores more on average. Is he correct? You need to give a reason. So there's 3 options here: mean, median, and mode. Mode would be the most obvious one to look for. Does this friend A have a mode? No, they don't. Does friend B have a mode? No, they don't, because there's no number that stands out there more than any others, or being there more than any others. So there are no modes. We can't compare the modes. The mean, if we were to compare the means, remember friend A is really inconsistent with his scoring. He scored 40 in that game and 0 in that game. So these might be considered to be outliers. So maybe it's a good idea to use the median average. We could use the mean as well. It wouldn't harm us to use the mean, because one kind of cancels out the other. There's nothing really ridiculous there. It's not like he scored 82 points in one game and then 20 points in another game. That would then be considered too much of a difference to work out what the mean average is. That would get skewed. I've talked about that in other videos. But we could take the median. Okay, median average would be, if we put the numbers in order, we'd have 0, 16, 17, 23, and 40. So our median there for friend A is 17. And our median for friend B, we'd have 16, 17, 18, 23, and 25. So the median average. So I would argue that friend B is scores more on average because higher median average score. If it worked out that the other chap, friend A, had a higher mean score, if you add them all up and divide it by the 5 games he's played, then that would be an acceptable answer. We could say A because the mean average score was higher, all right? But I've chosen the median, so that's my appropriate one. And I've given my reasons for it, so don't argue with me. Right, if you want, you put it in the comments section. That's absolutely fine. I'll probably reply and tell you you're wrong. Then in question 3, we've got the percentage bar chart shows the results of some adults who took a driving test. The adults who fail the first time take it the second time, and the results are shown in the pie chart. So it's a comparison of a percentage bar chart and a pie chart that we've got here. It's not even a comparison, it's just we've got 2 separate charts. There were 4 adults who failed the second time. How many passed on the first attempt? So we have to start with this pie chart, okay? And we have to start with this information that 4 adults failed, and the fact that they're represented by 30 degrees. Alright, so where am I going to do my working out for this one? 30 degrees is equal to 4 adults, 4 people. Okay, so what we want to do is work out what this whole pie chart would be in terms of a number of people. How many 30s are there in 360? Well, the calculation we could do there, we just do this, 360 divided by 30, that's 36 divided by 3, which is 12. Okay, so 360 degrees is going to be 12 times more. If we multiply by 12 on this side, we have to multiply by 12 on this side. 4 times 12, 48 people. Okay, I'm hoping that makes sense, what I've done there. Alright, I've worked out what this whole pie chart is worth in terms of people. That is worth 48 people. That means that 48 people failed. That means that this bar here is worth 48 people. Okay, now that, if we look at the scale, we've got 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Yeah, each one of those lines is worth 20%. That then is 40%. So 48 people is equal to 40% in that first graph, in the bar chart. What we want to do is work out what 60% is. So the quickest thing that I can think of that we could do here is work out what 20% is, which would be easy because we could just half this. That's going to give us 24 people. And then we can just add those two together to get 60%. So 60% is going to be 72 people. That is how many people passed on the first attempt. Okay, so our answer would be 72. Okay, definitely a tricky question, but you can navigate through it. All right, it's just knowing where to start with these sorts of questions. All right, start somewhere, try something, and you might surprise yourself. You might just work your way through a question like that and work it out if you're fairly decent with numbers. If you're not, read the question a few times and try and do something. Okay, pick up some marks for it because you could get 4 or 5 marks for these sorts of questions. Depends how difficult they are. All right. I hope all of that's made sense for you. Interpreting and comparing data, there's various different things you can do, but this is basically it in a nutshell, or in 3 questions. It's not necessarily a nutshell, is it? Yeah, nearly done 9 minutes on this one. So take care of yourselves. Comment, like, subscribe, click on the links, practice your maths, and be good.